What's up guys, Jun with the Sushi Man here, and today I'm going to show you how to make authentic yakisoba, which is Japanese stir-fried noodles. It's a very popular dish not only at restaurants but outdoor festivals all throughout Japan, making it one of the most common Japanese street foods. And what's great about it is, well, first it's delicious and it's also simple to make, and not to mention it's super versatile, meaning you can practically put whatever ingredient you like in there. You can even use spaghetti noodles if you can't find actual yakisoba. Anyways, it's a great, simple, and balanced meal that you will not regret learning how to make. Now with that said, let's get right into it. So really quick before we start, what exactly is yakisoba? Yakisoba is a Japanese stir-fried noodle dish with its origin coming from Chinese chow mein. It usually has some protein, typically pork, and some vegetables like cabbage, carrots, and onions. Yaki means to cook or to grill, and soba is a general term for noodles in this case. And I say that because we do not use the Japanese buckwheat noodles, which are also called soba. I know, confusing, right? Instead, it's a Chinese-style wheat noodle more similar to ramen. It's originally cooked over a large teppan or hibachi grill, but it can easily be made at home with a frying pan. It's simple and a great way to utilize leftover ingredients as well. Alright, enough of that. Let's move on to our ingredients. So the ingredients I have here are very common for yakisoba and what I typically like to use. But as I mentioned before, yakisoba is very versatile and you're free to swap any of these ingredients out for something of your choice. For example, if you want to use chicken instead of pork, or maybe make it vegetarian with some tofu, go right ahead. Trust me, it'll still taste amazing. Alright, so first we have some sliced pork belly, about 3/4 of a pound. And these are the thick cut version, but the thin sliced ones work just as well. I use both of them all the time and you can't go wrong with either style. Next we have about 1/4 of a green cabbage head, and then half of an onion, about half a carrot, 3 shiitake mushrooms, a couple green onions, 1 tablespoon of oil, and I like to use something neutral like vegetable or canola, some black pepper, and then the yakisoba noodles, which usually comes in a packet like this. You should be able to find it in the frozen section at most Asian markets or maybe even your regular grocery store. And it should be fully defrosted before we start cooking them. Now, most of these will come with their own seasoning packets, which you can definitely use. It does make things a little easier, but personally, I don't think it tastes as great. Which leads us into our sauce ingredients. So to make our homemade yakisoba sauce, we're going to need 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of mirin, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, and then about 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. I can never pronounce that. I use this Japanese bulldog brand which we call usta sosu in Japanese, which is much easier to pronounce in my opinion. Anyways, that's it for the sauce ingredients. Now we have some toppings. The most common one is what we call aonori, which is dried green seaweed flakes. It has a light saltiness to it and it adds more umami to the overall flavor. Next we have some beni shoga, which is pickled red ginger. I always like to add this because it helps cut the flavor of the yakisoba, basically like a palate cleanser. Same way that we use ginger for sushi. And those are the two that I typically use as toppings. But you can also add some katsuobushi, which are dried bonito flakes, tenkasu, which are tempura flakes, and one of my personal favorites, Japanese mayo. But it's all optional and totally up to your preference. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's get into our prep. So first, let's make our yakisoba sauce. And this is super easy, just add all the ingredients into a bowl and mix it. So we have our sugar, mirin, soy sauce, ketchup, oyster sauce, and then the Worcestershire sauce. A little bit better that time. Now we'll give this a good mix until the sugar fully dissolves. And that's it. Now let's start cutting our vegetables. Alright, let's start off with the onion. Now obviously this is already cut in half and peeled, but make sure you cut it in half vertically. So the onion is this way, and the stems are up here and down here. So you want to cut it vertically like this, not horizontal like this. And then you basically have an onion like this one here. Now we lay this down and we're going to slice this into about 1/8 to about 1/4 inch thickness. Okay, next the carrot. And this is peeled and washed already, but basically we're going to julienne cut this into about 2-inch strips. The way I like to do this is cut it diagonally every about 1/8 of an inch or so, and then lay it all down and then cut them into strips. Watch. Alright, next we have the shiitake mushrooms. First we'll cut off the stems. Now lay these down and just cut them into about 1/4 inch thickness. Now the green onion, and I've already cut off the ends and cleaned these. And you could just cut these into 2-inch length, or I usually cut them diagonally like this. So I'll just do one at a time here. And I start off with the white end and I cut this part a little thinner than the rest of the green parts. And once I get to this part, I cut them thicker. And try to keep the white parts separate from the green parts, not like how I did here. Even though we're cutting it thinner, the white part tends to take longer to cook still. Alright, the last one is the cabbage, and this is pretty simple. We first cut off the core part. And then we just chop this down into bite-sized pieces, roughly like an 1 to 2 inch rectangles. And now I'm just going to wash this in my salad spinner and then we're done with the veggies. So moving on to the pork belly. If I'm using the thin sliced ones, then I usually cut it into about 2-inch pieces. But since these are the thick cut, I'm going to cut it a little bit smaller, maybe about 1 inch or so. Alright, we're done cutting everything. Now we just have to rinse our yakisoba noodles under hot water to loosen them up a bit. Alright, so I just have this in the strainer and we're going to use hot water to gently separate and loosen the noodles. And be careful not to rip or break the noodles too much. Okay, that looks good about there. Now we want to make sure to drain this properly and then we can move on to cooking. First, let's heat our pan over medium-high heat. Once it's heated, we'll start cooking the pork belly. And there's no need to add any oil here. The fat from the pork belly will be enough, but if you're using a different type of protein, then you'll probably want to use some. Now I'm going to grind some black pepper on here. And then we just cook this until it's no longer pink. Alright, that looks good. Now I'm going to add the onions. And we'll mix this around and cook it for about 1 minute or so. Next we'll add in the carrots, and then we're going to cook this for about 1 minute again. Now we add in the shiitake and cabbage. And we'll cook this until the cabbage starts to soften up, maybe a couple minutes or so. Okay, now we're going to add the white part of the green onion. And then we'll cook it for about 30 seconds and then we'll toss in the rest. And then from here, just mix everything together and cook it for about 1 more minute. Alright, now this part's done. So we're going to transfer this over to a plate and then we'll get into the noodles. And I like to clean the pan once here, either with a paper towel or under the sink depending on how dirty it is. Okay, now we're going to heat this back up over medium-high heat. So normally I use a big wok to cook everything at once, but in this setup it doesn't really work. So I'm going to split everything in half and cook this twice, which isn't a big deal. Alright, once the pan is heated, we're going to add in our oil, half of it since we're cooking half at a time. Then spread it around evenly across the pan. And now we'll add in about half of the noodles. And now we want to let this sit here for a bit to crispen it up. And by doing this, it'll prevent having soggy noodles at the end. And you want to keep checking the bottom to see how much it's frying. And when you see that it's starting to get a little crispy, you want to mix it all up. Alright, that looks good right about there. Now let's turn down the heat to about medium, and we'll add in half of the pork and vegetables. And then mix it up a little bit. And now we'll pour in our yakisoba sauce, half of it again. And then we mix this all in so that the sauce is evenly distributed. And that is it. From here, just turn off the heat and then we're ready to plate. After our second round, that is. You can also use a pair of tongs if that's easier. Alright, second round done. Now let's really go plate this. And there you go. That's a good looking plate of yakisoba right there. Now I'm just going to sprinkle some aonori on top and then finish it off with some benishoga. And done. Look at that. You getting hungry yet? I know I am. And what's not to love about yakisoba? It's sweet and savory flavor full of umami with that chewy but slightly crispy noodles. Not to mention it's super well balanced with your protein and all the vegetables. And it's a big hit with kids too. I know my family absolutely loves it. Alright, good job guys. Now you know how to make some authentic, traditional Japanese yakisoba. And if you want to learn more about Japanese cooking fundamentals and how to make sushi, then check out my book, How to Make Sushi at Home, a fundamental guide for beginners and beyond. You might be surprised that making sushi is actually quite simple as long as you have the correct teaching. And that's exactly what this book is. I teach you from step 1 all the way to professional sushi chef level. So whether you're a Japanese food enthusiast or a sushi chef in training, this book is for you. Links are below for those that are interested. And you know what goes extremely well with this plate of yakisoba? Especially if you like spicy stuff? My homemade special spicy mayo, which you can make with the video right over here. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Alright, that's about it from me. Thanks for watching, and as always, feel free to leave any questions or comments below. I'll see you on the next one. ありがとうございます。